Before we start, viewer discretion is highly recommended. What follows is for informational and entertainment purposes only. This is the word-forward federal court testimony from the Sean Diddy Combs trial as documented by Intercity Press. Kanye West completely shook the courtroom. What began as a straightforward testimony about Diddy's alleged crimes quickly spiraled into something much more shocking. Kanye accused Clive Davis of being behind Whitney Houston's death. The judge was floored, the prosecution was left speechless, and the courtroom fell into a stunned silence. According to Kanye, everything we thought we knew about Whitney's passing was a cover story, and he claims Clive Davis was pulling the strings. In this video, we unpack Kanye's courtroom revelations, the proof supporting his accusations, the strange timing of Clive's pre-Grammy celebration, and why Kanye insists Clive is the puppet master behind the music industry's darkest secrets. The courtroom was packed with spectators while cameras swarmed outside, trying to catch a shot of Kanye West, who walked in wearing a gray suit and shades, protected by heavy security. He was called to testify against Sean Diddy Combs in a headline-grabbing trial. Already engulfed in controversy, everyone anticipated drama, but nobody expected the earthquake Kanye would unleash. As he stepped into the courtroom and took his seat, a thick silence swept the room. This wasn't just any witness, it was Kanye West, one of music's most divisive and powerful figures, and someone clearly ready to unload. At first, his testimony stuck to the script. He recalled his early connections with Diddy, talked about parties, collaborations, and hinted at disturbing patterns. He mentioned Diddy's control over young talent and suggested there were secretive meetings at unknown locations where people lost themselves. These comments alone could have made front pages, but then the prosecution posed a simple question. Did Kanye believe Diddy acted alone? That's when everything changed. "You want the truth?" Kanye said, removing his sunglasses and locking eyes with the jury. "Then you need to hear this. It's not just Diddy. It's bigger. Much bigger. This goes back to Whitney Houston. This goes back to Clive Davis." The courtroom gasped. The judge leaned back in shock. Lawyers glanced at each other, some clearly unsettled. Kanye had stopped testifying. He was now dropping bombs. He pointed to the gallery and said, "You keep asking like Diddy's the top. He's not. He's just a pawn. The real one running things is Clive Davis." The courtroom exploded. Diddy's lawyers quickly objected, but Kanye pressed on, his voice rising with intensity. He referenced the 2012 Grammy weekend, Whitney's sudden death, and the notorious Clive Davis party that went on while her body lay upstairs. "You trying to tell me someone dies upstairs and y'all party downstairs? That ain't no memorial, that's a ritual," he said. Security moved toward him, but the judge held them off. "Let him speak," she said. Kanye then described the music industry as a hidden system of power, where unseen hands control everything, even life and death. He claimed Whitney was ready to reveal dangerous truths. She knew too much. She was ready to escape. "And when you tried to leave, they take you out," he declared. The room was paralyzed. Jurors stared ahead, some leaning in, others visibly rattled. What was meant to condemn Diddy had turned into a full-scale expose. Clive Davis and the industry he allegedly crafted through silence and sacrifice. Once Kanye cracked open that door, he kicked it wide. His entire testimony morphed into a no-holds-barred speech against Clive, comparing Whitney Houston's fate to what he claimed nearly happened to him. "Ever wonder why so many icons die broke, sick, or isolated?" he asked the court. "Because they never held the reins. They were steered, scripted, and discarded the moment they stepped out of line." Prosecutors tried steering him back to Diddy, but Kanye waved them off. "We'll get to Diddy," he said. "But first, let's talk about the man who taught him the playbook." He accused Clive Davis of building a system where exploitation thrived. Diddy didn't invent this, Kanye said. He learned it from Clive, from the machine Clive designed. "Just look at the pattern." Kanye then walked the court through February 11, 2012. He described Whitney being found face down in a hotel tub, paramedics arriving too late, and Clive throwing his star-studded bash just one floor beneath her body. "That's not grief. That's not honor. That's dominance. That's showing who's in charge," he said. Kanye claimed Whitney had tried warning others. He pointed to a now viral clip from 2 days before her death where she appeared to whisper something about drowning into Brandy's ear during an interview. "You think she didn't know?" he asked. "That was her sounding the alarm, and no one listened." Then Kanye dropped a darker claim. He alleged Whitney called a confidant hours before dying and left a chilling voicemail. He said that message vanished. "You don't delete a voicemail unless it says something you don't want heard," he stated. When asked who they were, Kanye replied, "The people behind Clive. The ones who've run this since before you were even born." Kanye ended that portion of his testimony with a bold statement that he was guilty. But he didn't act alone. "You're looking at a monster," Kanye said, "but someone created him." He doubled down, calling Whitney's death part of a deeper trend. He listed Michael Jackson. Prince claimed they too were eliminated. "They tried to resist," he said. "You think Prince chose to die alone in an elevator? Think Michael wanted to vanish like that? Come on." He said Whitney was silenced because she was preparing to speak up. Yeah, she struggled, but she was planning, reconnecting, writing things down. She was ready to tell it all. Kanye then pointed at Clive Davis, blaming him for managing her image, catalog, and legacy. "She made more money dead than alive," he said, "and they knew that." He invoked Bobby Christina, Whitney's daughter, who died in eerily similar fashion. "Same bathtub, same substances, same silence," he said, voice shaking. "If that's not a pattern, what is?" The gallery remained silent. One juror reportedly wiped away tears. Kanye concluded, "Call me crazy, say I'm reaching, but ask yourself, how many coincidences equal a conspiracy?" As he stepped down, the courtroom froze. Diddy looked dazed. His lawyers were rattled. And the public, they were already spreading Kanye's words online. Kanye's testimony against Diddy then took a jarring turn. What started as allegations of abuse and control shifted into something much larger. With the room dead silent, Kanye leaned into the mic and said, "Let's stop pretending. Diddy's not the one running the circus. It goes way deeper. I'm talking about Clive Davis." That single name cracked the room open. Audible gasps spread through the audience. Even Diddy, who'd been visibly nervous, froze and looked to his lawyers in shock. Time seemed to stop. Then Kanye resumed, voice steady. He described what he called the dark channel inside the music industry, one that Whitney tried to escape. She knew, he claimed. She was reaching out. She was going to talk. And you know what happened? He insisted her death in a bathtub just hours before Clive's Grammy party in the same hotel was no accident. It was deliberate. Then came the reference to the infamous party. "That wasn't a memorial," Kanye said. "It was a ritual. Think it's a coincidence she dies upstairs and they're clinking glasses downstairs. That's not mourning. That's a message." Prosecutors looked stunned. Kanye hadn't given any hint this was coming. But he wasn't stopping. That party wasn't for show, it was for power. The real celebration was upstairs. She was already gone, and they knew it. He said Clive knew. Everyone knew. But nobody spoke. Diddy was visibly disturbed, not because of Kanye's accusations about him, but because of the target shift. Kanye had made it clear. Clive was the boss behind the scenes. Diddy's defense objected, pushing to bring it back to their client. But the judge allowed Kanye to finish. She ruled his testimony fit the case's broader focus on industry intimidation. In closing, Kanye looked across the room and asked, "You want to know why I didn't end up like Michael, like Whitney? Because I quit playing their game." He paused, then dropped the line that sent chills through the courtroom. "Clive Davis ain't a mentor, he's an architect. And his blueprint, silence in bathtubs." After Kanye's shocking claims, court officials replayed documentaries and eyewitness accounts surrounding Whitney's final hours to confirm or challenge what Kanye had said. The jury watched, quiet and focused, as hotel footage revealed chaos at the Beverly Hilton. Her assistant found her at 3:30 p.m. She was declared dead by 3:55. But the most haunting detail wasn't the timeline, it was the aftermath. Despite her death, Clive's party rolled on that night in the very same hotel. Multiple staff members testified. Her body was still upstairs as celebrities posed for photos and sipped champagne below. Some guests didn't even learn she had died until the next day. Others said they were shocked it wasn't canceled. One of Whitney's longtime friends told the court she would have never wanted that. That wasn't her. That was them. When asked who them referred to, she replied, "The ones who profited off her, dead or alive." The court then watched the infamous clip of Whitney interrupting Clive's media interview with Brandy and Monica. It was recorded just 2 days before her death. Whitney hands Brandy a note, repeats the word drown. The courtroom was gripped. One analyst said such repetition might indicate fear or forewarning. "It's like she sensed it," he told the jury. Suddenly, Kanye's testimony didn't seem like wild ranting, it felt like connecting dots. Especially when past interviews resurfaced, like Chaka Khan describing Clive's party as disturbing. "It didn't feel like a tribute," she once said. "It felt like a sacrifice." The implication was chilling. Whitney's death wasn't just foreseen, it was, in some way, acknowledged, not with grief but celebration. Clive Davis declined to testify, citing medical issues, but that didn't stop prosecutors from highlighting the optics and the profits. After Whitney's death, her music sales exploded. Licensing deals were renegotiated. Royalties poured in, the posthumous machine fired up. And who reaped the benefits? Clive Davis. By now, the courtroom had somewhat absorbed the initial shock, but no one saw Kanye coming back to the stand. He returned with purpose, and this time he dropped another grenade. Clive didn't act alone. He used Diddy. The courtroom erupted. Diddy's attorneys shouted. Clive Davis, and an industry allegedly built on silence and sacrifice. Once Kanye West opened that door, he refused to shut it. His testimony against Diddy quickly morphed into an unscripted manifesto, targeting Davis, drawing haunting parallels between what happened to Whitney Houston and what he believed nearly happened to himself. You ever wonder why all the legends die broke, sick, or alone? Kanye asked the courtroom because they were never in control. They were managed, directed, pushed, and when they stepped out of line, they were removed. Prosecutors tried to steer him back to Diddy, but Kanye waved them off. I'll talk about Diddy, but first, we gotta talk about the man who gave him the playbook. He accused Clive Davis of cultivating the very system that allowed abuse and manipulation to flourish. Diddy didn't invent this. He learned it from Clive, from the system Clive built. Look at the pattern. Kanye then recounted the events of February 11, 2012. Whitney found face down in a bathtub. Paramedics arriving too late, and Clive Davis's pre-Grammy party continuing one floor below. That wasn't grief. That wasn't respect. That was arrogance. That was power on full display. Kanye said he claimed Whitney had tried to warn others, referencing the now viral video of her whispering to Brandy days before her death, allegedly mouthing the word drowned. You think she didn't know? He asked. That was a cry for help, and nobody answered. Then came the bombshell. Kanye claimed Whitney had left a cryptic voicemail just hours before her death. According to him, the call was wiped from phone records. You don't just erase a call unless it says something they don't want anyone to hear. He insisted. When asked who they were, Kanye said, the ones Clive works for. The ones who've been running this game since before most of y'all were born. Kanye concluded this portion of his testimony with a chilling declaration: Diddy is guilty, but not alone. He called Whitney Houston's death part of a broader pattern. You think Prince wanted to die alone in an elevator? You think Michael wanted to go out like that? Come on now. He argued Whitney was silenced because she refused to stay silent. Yes, she had demons, but she was trying to rise. She was reaching out, writing things down. She was going to talk. He implicated Clive Davis in controlling Whitney's catalog, her legacy, and ultimately, the narrative of her death. She was worth more dead than alive, Kanye said, and they knew it. He brought up Bobby Christina's eerily similar. Death, same bathtub, same drugs, same silence. If that ain't a pattern, I don't know what is. One juror reportedly had tears in their eyes as Kanye closed with, call me crazy. Say I'm reaching, but ask yourself this. How many coincidences make a conspiracy? As he stepped down, the courtroom remained frozen. Diddy stared blankly, his attorneys visibly shaken. Outside, Kanye's words were already spreading like wildfire. Then, just when the courtroom thought it had absorbed the worst, Kanye pivoted. With the room hushed, he leaned into the mic and said, let's be honest, Diddy ain't the one pulling all the strings. This goes deeper, way deeper. I'm talking about Clive Davis. The name hit like a bomb. Gasps rippled. Even Diddy froze, turning to his attorneys with wide eyes. Kanye pressed on, describing a dark pipeline in the music industry. One, Whitney allegedly tried to escape. She tried to leave. She tried to talk. And you all know what happened next. Kanye said Whitney's death just hours before Clive's pre-Grammy party in the same hotel was no accident. He called it a ritual, not a tribute. He described the party as a mask. The real celebration wasn't downstairs, it was upstairs. That woman was gone, and they knew she was gone. And they danced anyway. Defense lawyers objected, but the judge allowed Kanye to continue, citing the relevance to a broader culture of intimidation central to the case. Kanye looked out at the jury and said, you want to know why I didn't end up like Michael Jackson or Whitney? Because I stopped playing their game. He paused, then said, Clive Davis is not a mentor, he's an architect, and his blueprints are made of silence and bathtubs. Court officials then played a series of documentary clips and testimonies about the night Whitney died. Her body remained upstairs while the party went on. Hotel staff testified that many guests didn't know or weren't told until the next day. One longtime friend of Whitney said bluntly, she would have never wanted the show to go on. That wasn't her. That was them. The infamous clip of Whitney interrupting Brandy and Monica's interview played again. A forensic psychiatrist testified that Whitney, in her final weeks, exhibited signs of extreme paranoia, convinced she was being watched and recorded. In a forgotten 2012 interview, Whitney had said, "They want to silence me." When asked who they were, she didn't say, but her eyes told the story. Kanye claimed someone close to Brandy told him Whitney had scribbled a note that read, "Don't trust Clive. I need help." The note has never resurfaced, but its timing and the repetition of the word drown struck the courtroom hard. Then came the name that turned heads, Fahim Muhammad. Kanye said, "You don't believe me?" As Fahim Muhammad, the former head of security for both Michael Jackson and Diddy, had been named in prior lawsuits. Kanye claimed Fahim wasn't just security, he was a handler. He said Michael tried to warn people in his last phone call not about Dr. Murray, not Sony, but Clive Davis. Gasps again. Kanye claimed he heard the tape. Michael said, "They're coming for me," and he meant Clive, not in code, by name. The prosecution played an old clip of Kanye saying, "The people who made Michael disappear are the same ones trying to silence me." The courtroom grew quiet as connections started to feel less speculative and more sinister. To bolster Kanye's claims, prosecutors called a music industry whistleblower who testified anonymously. "I've been to every Clive Davis party for 15 years, they said. That one Whitney's was different. The decor, the energy, the all-black dress code, it felt like a closing." An ex-Clive Davis employee testified that 1 week before Whitney's death, she overheard Davis on a heated call, saying, "If she won't play ball, she's a liability. That's not my problem anymore." The quote couldn't be verified, but it rattled the jury. Financial records confirmed what many feared. Whitney's albums shot back up the charts posthumously. Licensing rights were renegotiated. Royalties surged. The chief beneficiaries, Sony Music and Clive Davis. And then Kanye returned to the stand for a final, voluntary statement. "They tried to silence me too," he said, calm and resolute. "Whitney, Michael, Prince, they wanted out, and they got put down." He accused the music industry of operating like a cartel. Clive is the puppeteer. Diddy is the enforcer. He circled back to Fahim Muhammad. How does a 20-year-old business grad go from college to guarding Michael Jackson and then Diddy? Either he's a genius or he's a ghost handler. Kanye's closing line landed like a gavel of its own. "I know y'all want to call me crazy. You did it. To ye, to Michael, to Whitney. But here's the difference, I'm still breathing. And I ain't going to stop talking. Because silence is how they win. And I ain't letting them win." As the judge adjourned, reporters swarmed the hallway. The jury left visibly shaken. Diddy's once composed legal team now looked fractured. What had begun as a trial against one man had evolved into something else, a reckoning. Kanye West had pointed to Clive Davis and said, "You may have taken them, but you won't take me." And as the gavel fell, one thought echoed across the courtroom. What if he's telling the truth? Telling the truth.